Hello.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm here.
Yay. How was your event?
It's good. It's good. I ducked out just a few minutes early, and I'm having dinner delivered to the room. So at some point, I might step away to get my chicken.
Nice.
All right, I got to rename myself here.
Yeah, how do I change?
Are you putting your own name in, or do you want me to do it for you?
Let me try it because I should learn how to do it. More. Rename. Here we go. Hey, Josh.
Good evening.
How's it going?
Great.
Good.
How are you all doing? How's Texas, Michael?
No,
Or Commissioner Ray? Florida.
Fort Lauderdale.
Yes.
My background looks equally fake, though, even though it's.
Well, at least it matches the time of day this time.
There you go.
There you go. And we'll learn.
I learned a fun fact this weekend that the mayor's Office of Clean City has to report trash pickup to NOAA.
Oh, interesting. Like on a rolling basis, or is it like a monthly report or quarterly, or?
I think he said monthly. Yeah, he came to my cleanup on Monday.
How'd it go?
Good. A lot of junk there, and there's this fenced off section of Banneker that just has a bunch of trash sitting in it that I don't really understand what it's there for.
Interesting. Yeah,
big rusty old pipes sitting next to the high school for some reason.
Oh Lord. Yeah, during the next committee, your transportation committee meeting, I want to propose an idea of trying to petition Parks and Rec to maybe segment a space over there that could be for dogs. It's already used by all the dogs anyway.
I actually didn't see that much dog waste there.
That's because we're responsible.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because LaDroit just opened up not that long ago, right? Was that last year?
No, that dog park's been there for a long time.
Was it only fenced off last year or something? I swear there was
Nope.
some sort of change with it recently. Oh,
They remodeled some of the park itself, but it didn't impact the dog park.
Yeah, I would be curious how often the parking spaces at Banneker are used, because whenever I walk past it, it's not anywhere near a full parking lot, and the entirety of 9th has pretty open parking. Commissioner Gallagher has a new background too. Really throwing everything
That's
off.
a live one though.
Yeah, it is live. Greetings from Puerto Rico.
Hello.
Oh, that's right.
And I thought I was going to be the one from a good destination, but he's got me.
Commissioner Ray, is this a background in real time?
Yes, this is, although it looks equally fake, is what I was saying before.
Gives me great joy to be able to call you Commissioner Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair Footer. Very much appreciate it.
Commissioner Jacobson, I'm excited to show you this document that I've been working on around 8th Street. And I've been spending a lot of time on it and might be going a little overboard, but.
The one way?
Oh no, that's just one portion of a comprehensive plan that I'm putting together around 8th Street.
Interesting.
Forward to see it.
Mhm. I can't wait to show it to you. I've been going around taking photos of during the day and at night, making sure I'm getting all different angles.
Good. That's what I like to hear. Details.
Right?
Do the engineering for DDOT in some ways. Make
Mhm.
jobs easier.
So for people who are on the call who are attendees, thank you very much for joining. We will get started about 2 minutes after the hour. So we have about 3 more minutes before we get started, but thank you very much for joining us today.
It's a big change coming from a commission that used to be 12, and where with only 4 people I'd be nervous, but I don't have to be nervous anymore.
Yeah, technically we have a quorum. Yeah, Bobby's the only one who mentioned that she wasn't going to be able to make it tonight. Haven't heard anything from Rashida or Phil. I know Phil's is planning to come. Does anybody use Starry Internet?
I've never heard of it.
We have Starry Internet where I am, and I guess my boyfriend was just saying that they announced they went bankrupt. So now I'm worried that I may not have internet in the next couple of weeks. I hope that is not the case. Although bankruptcy takes a long time, so I'm sure they'll be around for a while.
Yeah, as I recall, their technology required them to put something on the roof of the buildings, and so they, focused on bigger buildings, which
Mhm.
they would qualify.
Yeah. Commissioner Newland, how are you?
Good. How's everybody doing?
Good. All right. Well, we are 2 minutes after. I am looking through the attendee list just to see if Rashida is on. I don't. I believe we do. 1E04.
Yep, you got it. That's interesting.
Hi, Rashida.
Hi,
Hello.
coming on camera soon.
Take your time. All right. Well, happy Wednesday, everybody. I now call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. Just a few administrative notes before we get started about Zoom. Please note that today's meeting is being recorded. Closed caption is available for each user by simply clicking the button on the toolbar below. Please submit questions through the Q&A function located on the toolbar below as well. If you're calling in rather than participating through the web, you may raise your hand by dialing *9. Commissioner Ray will be monitoring questions throughout the meeting, as will a number of other participants or commissioners today, but please feel free to submit your questions. And with that, I will ask Secretary Jacobson to please conduct the roll.
Thank you, Chair Footer. So I will start with Commissioner Gallagher,
Present.
Commissioner Ray, Commissioner Lancaster is not attending today, so absent. Commissioner Brown,
Present.
Commissioner Newland,
Present.
Commissioner Jacobson, that's me, I'm present. And then Chair Footer.
Present.
Awesome. That is 6 out of 7. So seeing that we have 6 out of 7 members here, we have a quorum.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. I am going to share my screen and I will share the agenda. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Awesome. Great. All right, so a quick note, per DC law, the ANC 1E meeting was noticed to the community via listserv, the website, social media, and e-calendar. If you are interested in continuing to receive information about ANC 1E, please visit our website at anc1e.org. And on the front or on the home page, you can sign up by entering your email. You can sign up for our listserv. Next, we have a motion to approve the agenda. I will quickly just go through for people who are on the call. If you're unable to see the agenda, we will go through the consent agenda. When we get there, I'll actually read what's underneath there. Then we'll move to community announcements, which will be a time for members of the community to raise any announcements, distribute information, things of that nature. Then we'll go to official business and committee updates. We've restructured this since the last time we met. We've designed it around the committee structure. And so we'll start with the Zoning and Economic Development Committee, which has 1, 2, 3 items of business. Then we'll go on to Transportation and Public Space Committee, which has 2 items of business. Then we'll go on to a quick announcement from Public Safety and Engagement Committee. And then we'll move to the ABRA related business, which we have 3 items of business under. Then we'll move to executive officers announcements, and I have a quick update, and then we will also go through the FY23 proposed budget. I do see that we have a hand risen, Commissioner Brown.
Yes, are we still having a presentation from the Lower Georgia Avenue Main Streets Director?
No, the last time that I'd spoken with them, they were going to be going to, I believe Commissioner Jacobson, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were going to your meeting in March.
That's correct. So that'll be next Wednesday.
Great.
I have an amendment to offer up.
Great. Yes. So please, Commissioner Brown.
I would like to include a consent on the consent agenda, if possible, a support letter for Lower Georgia Avenue Main Streets, Africa on the Ave. I have a support letter, but I need to get a couple of logistical information from the Lower Georgia Avenue Main Streets Director. And I want to also say that ANC1A supported this event.
Just so I make sure that I get it correct on here, do you mind saying it one more time? So support letter
For Africa on the Ave, might be saying that incorrectly. For Lower Georgia Avenue Main Streets event at Bruce Monroe Park.
I do have a question just about that, and I know that in the consent agenda, we're really not asking questions, but is this time sensitive? Because I believe that's why they were going to the Transportation Committee.
Okay. Then
But
not.
if it's
I
time
just don't know the
sensitive,
date.
yeah. If it is time sensitive, Commissioner Jacobson, can you recall, or do you mind pulling up that email? Was there any indication of time sensitivity?
No, that's why they were okay just going to the committee meeting. Let me double check on when it's scheduled for.
I know Kay is here. I just don't know if
Yeah.
you can share it.
in the chat. Commissioner Jacobson, while you're pulling that up, I know we may have one other potential amendment to the agenda. So let me just get that real quick and then we'll come back, Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Gallagher?
Yeah, Chair Footer, I do have one proposed amendment to the agenda, and that is striking the third item under the Zoning and Economic Development Committee part of the agenda. So the rationale for that is that the committee in its February 8th meeting had voted to draft a resolution for the full ANC to ask the Historic Preservation Review Board to expedite a case for historic preservation that was for the property at 451 Park Road. We've since then received notice that the HPRB will in fact hear this case at its April meeting. So I believe that renders the proposal as overcome by events or obsolete.
Great. And then coming back to you, Commissioner Jacobson.
Yeah, the event is on May 20th.
Okay, so Commissioner Brown, if you don't mind, we'll just wait to do that until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other amendments to the agenda? All right, hearing none, I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Second.
I'm sorry, who actually made the motion? I didn't hear it.
Sorry, Chair Footer, you made the motion. I seconded the motion.
Right, okay, I will write that. I wrote it. All right, so the motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the agenda signify by raising your hand. And all those opposed signify by raising your hand. And abstentions. All right, with 6 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the agenda is approved. All right. Next, we will move on to the consent agenda. So just a reminder, all matters listed under the consent agenda are considered by the commission to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any commissioner may, however, remove an item from the consent agenda by request in order for us to be able to actually discuss it if they think that there's something more to elaborate on or if they have questions. So with that, the consent agenda consists of this month, an amendment to a previous approval to open an account with Bank of America, which was approved on January 12th, 2023. And we are amending it to open an account with PNC. The second agenda item is to approve the January 2023 ANC 1E public meeting minutes. And the third agenda item, consent agenda item, is approval of reimbursing the treasurer $250 for initial funds needed to open a bank account at PNC. At this time, I will accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. All right, the motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the matters listed under the consent agenda signify by raising your hand. Great. All those opposed signify by raising your hand. And abstentions. All right. With 6 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the matters listed under the consent agenda are adopted. Moving right along. All right. Now we will move on to community announcements. So commissioners and members of the community can use this time to make public announcements, distribute information, or alert the community about issues. For members of the public, if you are here to discuss an item listed under official business, please hold your comments until we get to that agenda item. We will make sure to open the floor to the public to be able to speak after the presentation of that particular official business item. All speakers will have 3 minutes to speak. We'll start with commissioners, then move to the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services, also known as MOCRS, and then the representative from Councilmember Bryant Nadeau's office. Then we'll move to members of the public. For members of the public, please indicate you would like to speak by raising your hand using the button on the toolbar below. If you are calling in rather than participating online, you may raise your hand by dialing *9. I'll call members of the public in the order that you raise your hand. With that, we will move to commissioners. Do any commissioners have any announcements? Please raise your hand. Hearing none. All right. Then we will go to the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services, MOCRS. So Jared Allen.
Mr. Allen, if you're here, if you could please raise your hand, that'll bring you to the top of the list. I don't believe Mr. Allen is with us.
I don't see him. All right, then we will move to representative from Councilmember Bryant Nadeau's office, and that is Jackie. I apologize, I'm going to say your last name incorrectly. Casadena? And if you could raise your hand, perfect. All right. Jackie, you are on. You can unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes. And please, can you please correct me and how to pronounce your last name?
Yes, you were very close. Castaneda.
Castaneda. Thank you, and I apologize.
No,
Please,
no
you have 3
worries.
minutes.
I appreciate when anybody tries because sometimes it looks intimidating, but as soon as I say it, it makes sense. But thank you. Also, it's great to finally be able to participate in 1E. Congratulations on the new ANC. I see some familiar faces, so it's really great to just be with you all in this space. I miss some of you over at 1A, but it's all good. I love that there's some strong holders, you know, in this area now too, holding it down and really doing a lot of great work. So not to use up all my minutes, I'm going to be very quick. Today we have the council member as the chair of the Committee of Public Works had 2 performance oversight hearings, one with the contract appeal boards and also contracting and procurement, plus the chief of the Office of the Chief Technology Officer's updates. And we are still going to be doing the oversight for the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection, but that has been put on hold just for now. If there are any questions about any of the oversights, definitely please feel free to reach out. So we are going to be going into budgets soon, but now we're just concluding the performance oversights, which is actually interesting. I didn't even realize we were already on the last one. Next update that I wanted to share, Councilmember Nadeau reintroduced the bill to decriminalize street vending. And what's special about this reintroduction is that we did it with the chairman, who has joined in to support our efforts to to criminalize street vending, and make it easier for street vendors to run a successful business, which we've seen for many years now in our area. The legislation was announced a few weeks ago, and it consolidates two bills that Councilmember Nadeau introduced in the previous legislation. So if this one passes, it will become the third. DC will become the third major city in the U.S. to reform its vendor licenses regulations, following New York City and Los Angeles. And the legislation will formalize the vending of food and artisanal goods as a local industry and as part of DC's rich cultural overhaul, and streamline the complex and costly business licensing system, which is what's currently in place, and it has led to a lot of misunderstanding, miscommunications, or in terms of what others have said, almost a chaotic system that we really would like to be better at ensuring that there's regulation and enforcement. So that we're really excited to see where that is going to be going soon. And then the last two updates, both Councilmember Nadeau and Councilmember Pinto teamed up to request that the 1617 U Street development also include a library, which is going to be really exciting to have a library on U Street, actually. And they both sent a letter in support for a public library as part of the development to Deputy Mayor. Well, see, now I can't pronounce his name. I practiced earlier and I had it, and now I forgot because I think I'm nervous. I won't butcher it, but the deputy mayor for buildings as a request. So they would like to see that the space be utilized also by including a public library, which we have been receiving a lot of great feedback on. The current site right now is the Fire and Emergency Services Engine 9 and the MPD 3rd District Headquarters. We are still receiving input. So I know it's not within your SMD, but because it's all of Ward 1, this is great information just to be able to share and hear any type of feedback from all Ward 1 residents. What else we would like to see, or how we can make sure that it's all efficient. Then the last thing that I will say is, or that I would like to share, is that on Monday, February 27th, the council member will be hosting her monthly community office hours. We will be having it at Buddy's DC, which is on 11th Street. And they are relatively new. They just opened up, so we were definitely excited to be able to host it in an area where we can get to meet our new business owners, and also encourage constituents to come, not only to talk to the council member, but just to get to know some of the new and exciting businesses that are opening up in the area. So I will be. We currently don't have a flyer for it right now. We're working on that one, but like as soon as I get off, I will make sure to send notes. So it will have the information, and then including all the other things that I've shared also, in case there is any follow-ups that anybody will need. But I will leave it at there, and I don't know if any time was allocated for questions, but
Yes.
I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, I see we have a question from Commissioner Ray.
Thank you. I'll keep it quick. On the vendor law, did the new zones, did it identify any new zones that would fall in 1E?
I can double check on those. I know that they've been trying to include new zones, but I think it's also being based on how census that they're being done about how many vendors we already have out and who also needs to still get licensing. So some of that work has been in collaboration with the Mayor's Office of Latino Affairs. So we can definitely double check on and coming back into that. I'm gonna make it a note to Commissioner Ray, so that way I can follow back up with you on that specific too.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
And then my other is, at some point, I do want to speak to you a little more about the intersection, the intersection that we've been talking about for a long time.
Yes,
Sherman,
I think,
Sherman,
yeah.
so when you have some time, follow up. I continue to get, complaints from neighbors about the inability to cross there. So let's.
Same, same. Yes, I think I would love to be able to get in touch with you also, and I don't know, I guess revisiting our strategic board, because it's one of those things that I think it seems like we're kind of doing the same thing over and over, and I don't know.
And we can take this to the transportation committee, but I just want to talk to you first before.
Yeah. Okay, I will. I'll shoot you an email too. I believe I did see that, so I will follow up with you on there and then send in any more information too. Okay.
All right. Well, Ms. Castaneda, I'm so sorry, Castaneda.
Mhm.
Perfect. If you can stick around for just a moment, we're going to open up comments from or announcements from the community. But I do want to just, if you don't mind sticking around for a minute, there may be a question or something that might be geared towards you. So please stick around for just a moment.
I will.
And with that, members of the public, if you are interested in an announcement, you have any questions for Councilmember Bryant Nadeau's office, please feel free to raise your hand at this time. Again, if you are calling in rather than, calling in rather than being on the web, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. So I see that we do have one comment from Kay Pearson. Or announcement.
Good evening. My name is Kay Pearson, and I am just introducing myself as the new manager of the Lower Georgia Avenue Main Street. And I will put if I can, put my contact information in the Q&A for anyone who has questions for me or any activities going on in Lower Georgia Avenue. As you all know, it's between Howard University and Kansas Avenue Northwest. So good to meet all of you.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you as well. All right. Any other announcements or questions from the community? All right. Seeing none, we will move into official business. So as I mentioned before, that we've reorganized our agenda under the official business, and we've organized it around the 3 standing committees, then the ABRA related items, and then followed by executive committee announcements or updates. The committee chairs will begin by providing a brief update on their committee's activities from February. Then they will walk through each item of business and have 5 minutes per item to present. They'll take questions from commissioners, and then we'll move to questions from the public as well. And we will do that until a motion is proposed. So we will start with Zoning Economic Development Committee, and the chair recognizes Commissioner Gallagher. I should also note, and I apologize, Commissioner Gallagher, I am also going to share my screen for the resolutions or the items that we actually going to discuss, so you can talk directly to it. People can see what you're speaking to.
Perfect. Chair Footer, no need to apologize. That really helps me out. Thank you. I appreciate it. So first of all, I wanted to thank the currently 9 members of ANC 1E Zoning and Economic Development Committee for their service to the community and their careful consideration of the zoning cases that have come before us so far. So this is a diverse group. It includes architects, affordable housing advocates, housing development finance experts, and just simply community members who are interested in giving their time for this effort. So I do want to say, if anyone else who's calling in tonight is interested in joining us and lending a hand to this effort, please feel free to reach out to me or your ANC commissioner so that we can sign you up to help us. We could use all the help we could get in reviewing proposals related to zoning and economic development for our community. So specifically, the Zoning and Economic Development Committee had its inaugural public meeting on February 8th. At that meeting, we heard 4 presentations from applicants for zoning related considerations by DC's Board of Zoning Adjustment. as well as giving time for comments by community members on several of these cases. So for 2 of these cases, those are at 447 and 451 Park Road Northwest. We did motion to table for our March 8th meeting at the absolute earliest, further consideration of those cases, and we'll hear additional presentations, comments, inputs from both the applicants and input from the community at that time. But I'm proud to report that we did reach unanimous recommendations on the other 2 cases, namely Howard University's proposal to build a medical lab on Georgia Avenue between Berry Place and Bryant Street, as well as a proposal at 731 Kenyon Street Northwest to convert an existing row house into a 3-unit building by adding a rear addition and a 3rd floor. So commissioners, I provided the text of proposed resolutions in support of these 2 applications, being the Georgia Avenue and the Kenyon Street proposals, to you for your consideration. I hope you've had time to review, but I welcome any questions or comments from the commissioners before we motion to vote to approve these resolutions. Thank you.
Questions from commissioners? I am sharing the resolution language right now, so people can take a look. If there are no questions from, I'm sorry, Commissioner Jacobson, did you have a question?
Great eye there, Chair Footer. I was just going to help provide a little bit of context for the community on this one, since not everyone knows where streets are exactly. This is the lot that covers where the McDonald's is on the corner of Berry and Georgia, and it extends further down into the parking lot. And some of this development is done by right, and then the piece that needed additional approval was for the medical lab.
Thank you. And just if I can add to that, and what this particular issue is that we're talking about is just the ability for the it to be a lab. And so this is nothing to do with the actual building design. That will come later. This under the consideration for this is just to amend the zoning so that they could be a lab itself. Commissioner Gallagher, if you don't mind, I just want to make a statement about the last kind of whereas clause here, because I was the one who kind of pushed it a bit. One of the things, everything that they were saying, Howard University was saying, was fantastic. We're very excited about the opportunity for this innovative lab to come to our neighborhood, specifically in my SMD. The one thing that they did say that was a bit of concern was the plans to transport the lab materials and waste on a residential street of 8th Street between V and Berry Street. This is not the forum to begin talking about the building design, but I do want to be very clear and go on the record that I do not believe it is in the public's best interest to have biosafety level 2 materials and waste being transported on a residential corridor when there is a perfectly viable arterial commercial street, Georgia Avenue, right next to it. And so without going into the design of it, we did want to just go on the record and saying we don't think that's the best plan, and to please, we encourage the applicant to avoid that. So we will have the opportunity to get into that more later on when the design actually comes to fruition, but want to be clear that that's something that is important to us. So if there are no other questions from commissioners, I will open it up to the public. If you have a question or a comment about this particular resolution, please feel free to raise your hand. And I see that we have Patrick Nelson.
2 comments. One, I know this is just trying to think the right word, new to you guys, but is this your form that you think that you're supposed to be doing this for all BZA related cases?
The form,
Yeah, resolution.
we are aware that the official submission is a form, I might get the number wrong, 142?
129.
129, thank you. And that this is, we're taking this as an opportunity to be almost a cover letter in order to explain some of the detail of the due diligence that we did and highlight any potential concerns that we may have, even though there is space already allocated on that form. We want to be sure that we are as articulate as possible, and so we're going to do both.
Okay, well then this is something you would attach to that form. That form needs to be filled out, and most of this information should be put on that, and then this would be an attachment.
Sure. Chair Footer, I can weigh in on that if that's helpful. Yeah, Mr. Nelson. Yeah, we do have the Form 129 that's specifically called the Advisory Neighborhood Commission report to the BZA. We do have the forms for both of these cases ready to go following the deciding on the resolutions as well.
Okay, I'm not contesting this. I'm just curious because I've never seen a resolution for a BZA case. It's highly unusual as far as I know. And then my other comment would just be to Brian's comment about further input. This is a by right project, and the university needs to communicate with the community, but there's not going to be a whole lot of input on what happens to the building. They could that part of it is not within the privy of the ANC to tell them what they can or cannot do. These recommendations that you put in here are things that you can put into BZA, and they'll take into consideration for the application. But and it's good that you're doing this. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but as far as what happens to the actual building design and all that they have final say on what they're going to do on that, because it's a by right matter of right. And they have agreed in a prior BZA case, which was attached to their campus plan, to come out and explain what they're doing to the community, but they don't have to listen per se to any recommendations from the community as far as their design, just so everybody knows that.
Well, my understanding is that the laboratory use is not by right, and that's why they had to come to ANC, which does give us the right to make other ancillary requests as well, unless I'm mistaken.
No, that is not totally correct. They're asking for a special exception just to be able to do the laboratory use in that zone, which is not part of the by right normal things. That does not give you any input on anything else related to that. They're asking the ANC to support them on a special exception for this change to the code that they're asking for, but it doesn't open up the conversation for you to do anything else relating to the building. They're just asking for you to support them to be able to do a laboratory use. That's all you're being asked for.
Great. Thank you very much, Patrick. We appreciate the detail. Any other members of the community? All right, seeing none, I will now accept a motion to adopt the resolution in support of Howard University's zoning adjustment request for Lot 3 Labs LLC. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
All right. Do we have a
And I will
second?
second.
Thank you both. The motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the resolution in support of Howard University's zoning adjustment request for Lot 3 Labs LLC signify by raising your hand. Great. All those opposed, raise your hand. And abstentions. All right. With 6 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the matter is approved. All right. Commissioner Gallagher, you remain to have the floor.
Chair Footer, I believe our other case was the 731 Kenyon resolution for support. Same procedures as for the George Avenue case.
All right. Any questions from commissioners? Mr. Gallagher or Commissioner Gallagher, do you want to give a little bit of background of exactly what they're proposing?
Sure. So generally the idea would be to convert an existing row house on Kenyon Street into 3 units. The way they would do that would be to add a 3rd floor as well as extension in the back of the property. There's something of a unique design that the architects have come up with to still have the light and air for both the 3 units in the subject property and for the adjacent properties, kind of having these courtyards between each unit that would be at 731 Kenyon. We heard from community members as well as Zoning and Economic Development Committee members that the design largely was in keeping with the character of the block, which currently has a mix of 2- and 3-story row houses. We heard no opposition from community members about the applicant's proposal in this case. Thanks.
Great. Commissioner Brown, I saw your statement. Unfortunately, I don't have it readily available, but we can send around the design plans. Commissioner Gallagher does have it and has been sharing it. Any questions from commissioners? All right, seeing none. We'll move to the community for questions or comments. If you have a question or comment on this zoning adjustment request for 731 Kenyon Street, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none. I will now accept a motion to adopt the resolution in support of the zoning adjustment request for 731 Kenyon Street Northwest.
So moved.
Seconded.
Perfect. Motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the resolution in support of the zoning adjustment request for 731 Kenyon Street Northwest signify by raising your hand. Great. And those opposed, raise your hand. And abstentions. All right. With 6 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted. All right, I'm going to go back to the agenda. And that is all the business that we have for zoning and economic development. But Commissioner Gallagher, if you want to close out, just announcing when your next meeting would be.
Sure. The next meeting of the Zoning and Economic Development Committee will be Wednesday, March 8th at 7 p.m. That will also be a web virtual meeting, much like this one. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Next, we will go to Transportation and Public Space Committee. The chair recognizes Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you, Chair Footer. I'll just give a brief background on the committee. We held our first meeting last month. The scope are things related to DDOT and parks in our ANC. We have a pretty good group of community members that will be joining us. A lot of focus on finding ways to be proactive to increase the safety of our streets and improve parks in the area. So I have a couple of resolutions that I'll be presenting on tonight. The first is on a resolution requesting DDOT to study bike lanes along Bryant Street. Chair Footer, do you have the most perfect? So the idea behind this resolution is to be a little bit more proactive with DDOT. some of the highlights of this request are that we want DDOT to start thinking about bike lanes in this area, and we have a proposal at the end for some options that they could think about just to start the conversation. It does not mean that this is what we expect DDOT to do. It's just something that we want DDOT to put into their toolbox, so to speak. So some of the whys behind this, there are not any existing planned bike routes between Lower Georgia Avenue and Bloomingdale. DDOT has previously stated that one of their long-term plans is to increase the safety of North Capitol Street, including parts of the deck over, and they want to have protected bike lanes there at some point in the future. Separate from that, but related to this resolution, is that DDOT's stated policy is to only have RPP designated areas on the side of streets with residences. And a protected bike lane could be added throughout this stretch by getting DDOT more in line with their stated policy preferences and removing one parking lane and still keeping a parking lane per side or per side that has residences throughout the area, with a couple of exceptions. And again, these are just potential options, not something that we're requiring of DDOT, just something to help them brainstorm. This will help increase safety on a route that will likely see an increase in pedestrian and bike traffic with the planned development of the McMillan site. And importantly, roughly 40% of households in the Lower Georgia Avenue area do not have a vehicle, and we need to be designing our roads to allow for safe access for those families. So we went through engineering manuals, pulled up the width of the roads and what the requirements are for different bike lane widths, and included all that in this section. What questions do commissioners have? Or comments? And since I'm not sure if I said this, the goal would be to have a bike lane from Georgia Ave to North Capitol, extending it further west if possible, with coordination with Howard. So we've been talking to Howard about some options there, and then getting as far east as North Capitol, but that can be dependent on what options DDOT thinks are best in the area. It sounds like there might not be questions or comments from commissioners.
So we want to move to the public.
Yeah.
Any comments or questions from members of the public? Please raise your hand and we will pull you over to unmute. All right, and I see that Patrick Nelson has a question or comment. Patrick, yes, please go right ahead.
Brian, I actually have two things. One is a follow-up to the ZED stuff. There was supposed to be a letter also approved by the ANC to go to the HPRB, but you didn't say anything about that. It was on the agenda. Has that been taken off?
That was taken off during the first part of the meeting when we were making amendments to the agenda. And we can follow up afterwards, just because I want to make sure that we kind of focus on this for right now. But Commissioner Gallagher gave an explanation of why.
Okay.
Do you have a question on this?
Yeah, I have a question for Josh. Who at Howard have you been talking with in reference to Bryant Street?
I believe it was Teresa. Let me double check her emails.
Yes, it was Teresa.
Yeah.
Okay, so the only point that I would make is that, and I haven't had a chance to read this since it's the first I'm seeing this. There is some changes that are going to occur within the campus plan with the new hospital, and I think Bryant Street is part of that. although it might be the street above it, where they're planning on using that for the ambulance access off of Georgia Avenue. So just keep that in mind and maybe question Teresa on that, since she's new to this whole campus stuff and Howard. Make sure that that's not the case. I would have to go back and look at my campus stuff to see exactly where that is, because I can't remember. But I think the hospital is going to be between Bryant and something else, and they're going to be making part of the agreement that was made with the city in the campus plan was to change the direction of some of those streets to make them one way going one way and one way going another. So just keep that in mind, that may affect this as it relates to Bryant Street.
Yeah, I appreciate that comment. Making it one way would likely make some of the case for this a little bit easier. The other thing I want to note is the idea here is just start a conversation with DDOT. DDOT hasn't sent out any sort of NOI around this. There are no long-term plans anywhere in their planning docs with a east to west route in the area. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be Bryant. It's just a conversation starter so that DDOT starts thinking about the importance of connecting these two areas of the city.
Which is fine, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is just so that you can go back and look at the campus plan and see what was put in there to accentuate what you're doing, so that you have a better idea of addressing it to DDOT, so that you're on the same page with them. Because like I said, that was part of an intense discussion when they were proposing doing the hospital on campus versus where it is now.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Any other members of the public? All right, seeing none. I'll now accept a motion to adopt the resolution requesting DDOT to study bike lanes along Bryant Street. Do we have a motion?
I will make my own motion for this.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Commissioner Gallagher. All right, the motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the resolution and adopting the resolution requesting DDOT to study bike lanes along Bryant Street signify by raising your hand. And those opposed, raise your hand. And abstentions. All right. With 6 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted. All right. Commissioner Jacobson, if you want to move to your next item, I will pull it up.
Yes, so this is a resolution supporting the 2023 Rock and Roll DC Half Marathon. This happens every year. The route will be coming through portions of 1E, and it'll specifically be happening on March 18th. So that's Saturday in March. There will be street closures in the area from around 7:30 a.m. to 12:45 p.m. with some in the area opening around 12:15 that day. And parking will not be allowed on that route, and car traffic will be restricted along the route and not be able to cross through the route unless MPD, who are the ones that are in charge of the barricades in the area, allow traffic through. So the Rock and Roll Half Marathon will be flyering affected streets that are along the route and then a block in either direction. So neighbors will get notified. There will also be signs throughout the area reminding folks that the particular block will be closed so that folks cannot be driving or parking in that area.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacobson. If I can just add one thing, one of the questions that we asked was just if they were going to have a band and what time would that start, because we are on the eastern side towards maybe the middle end of the actual marathon. There is going to be a band in one strategic location to try and get people excited and going, but they are not anticipating that to actually start anytime before about 9:15, because we will be around mile marker 10.
Thank you for that addition, Chair Footer.
All right, any questions from commissioners? All right, seeing none. Any questions or comments from the public? Please raise your hand. All right, seeing none. I will now accept a motion to adopt the resolution in support of the 15th annual Rock and Roll DC Half Marathon.
I motion to support that resolution.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Great. All right. The motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the resolution in support of the 15th annual Rock and Roll DC Half Marathon signify by raising your hand. And opposed, signify by raising your hand. And abstentions. All right. With 6 votes in favor, 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted. All right, I'm going to go back to the agenda.
And the only other item then is our next meeting is the next TPS meeting is next Wednesday, March 1st, 2023. We will be talking about the Africa on the Ave event. And there are a couple other resolutions that we're working on related to street safety that we'll be talking about there. And I don't remember the correct term for this, but there will be some installation of tree boxes. I think it was 1E01. Commissioner Ray, can you remind me?
Sure, it's on our border street of Otis, so it's in 1E01 and 1E03 between Georgia Avenue and New Hampshire.
Got it, thank you. So DDOT will be presenting on those upcoming plans. So if you want to learn more about those or have questions or comments on it, feel free to join that meeting next Wednesday.
Great, thank you very much. Next, we move on to Public Safety and Engagement Committee. Unfortunately, Commissioner Lancaster could not join us tonight. So just a brief kind of update on that. They were unable to meet in February, and so their first meeting will be on Friday, March 17th at 7 p.m. More details can be found on ANC 1E's website. 1E is in a interesting position where we have our commission is split, and we have 2 MPD districts that that we cover. On the north side, we have District 4. And then on the southern side, we have District 3. And so there's a lot of conversation and coordination. And I feel like this, not only is this topic very important to us and also to the mayor, as she's indicated, but we have a unique opportunity to try and be a coordinating center because we do kind of reflect 2 districts. So if you are interested in joining the Public Safety Committee, Public Safety and Engagement Committee, please reach out to Commissioner Lancaster and please CC me. I'm happy to help talk to anybody. I will say that Commissioner Lancaster has requested that she would like all of our help in trying to recruit members and would very much welcome the opportunity for a co-chair to help her get this committee off the ground. So if you're interested, and that goes to members of the public, you're more than welcome to co-chair a committee But commissioners, members of the public, if you're interested in helping to lead and drive some of this conversation, please reach out to me or your S&D representative. Happy to talk to you about it. But this is a great committee. We're looking forward to it kind of standing up. All right. So with that, we will move into our next official business item, which is the ABRA related business. And the first agenda item that we have, there's a settlement agreement with Sankofa Cafe before the commission, and the chair recognizes Commissioner Newland for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Footer. So Sankofa Cafe, located 2714 Georgia, they applied for a Class C tavern license, and we entered into a settlement agreement with them, basically to adjust the hours of operation on the outside of the property, but not inside. And the reason for doing this is to minimize any potential impacts on the neighborhood in terms of noise or pedestrian or vehicle transportation. So just for background, the Class C license allows for operation and sales of alcohol till 2 a.m. Sunday through Thursday, and then 3 a.m. Friday through Saturday. So those hours would remain for the indoor area of this establishment, but for the outside, their summer garden, which is in the front of the premises, the settlement agreement stipulates that the hours of operation would end at 12 a.m. midnight rather than 2 or 3 on the weekdays and weekends. So that outlines the agreement that we have proposed, and welcome any questions or comments on this.
Any comments or questions from commissioners? All right. Hearing none. Any comments or questions from the public with respect to Sankofa Cafe? Please signify by raising your hand. I will just add, if you don't mind, Commissioner Newland, that Sankofa Cafe has been a great community partner for many years, and I believe since 2019 has changed ownership. And so they are looking to maintain a lot of the great educational opportunities they have, such as book readings, things of that nature. And so in this settlement agreement, which they did not have a settlement agreement beforehand, and so this is a great opportunity for us to be able to add some parameters by having them enter into a settlement agreement. We did make it very clear that we were going to limit any kind of things that could be construed as an entertainment, like live bands and things of that nature, particularly when it comes to the outdoor space. And so this language is very intentional, and happy to walk through any specific pieces of it if people have questions. We also ran some of this information by some experts over at ABRA, just to make sure that we were wording it in a way that would not be struck later, because we felt pretty strongly about some of these pieces. And we feel pretty confident that this is done in a very good way that will not impact their current operations and them being great members of the community, but protecting the community or the future residents that will be directly across the street in the next year or two. I do see that we have a comment or question from Kay Pearson.
I just wanted to speak in support of this, and I hope that you have noted that this Sankofa has been on the avenue for well over 20 years and has always been a good citizen, a great business, a great resource to the community. And I hope that this resolution is supported, and that they are allowed to do to carry on the kind of programs that have made them the great legacy business that they are. That's it.
Thank you. Any other comments from the community? All right, seeing none. I'll now accept a motion to adopt the settlement agreement with Sankofa Cafe.
I motion to accept the settlement agreement with Sankofa Cafe.
Seconded.
All right. The motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the settlement agreement with Sankofa Cafe signify by raising your hand. Great. All those opposed signify by raising your hand. All right, and abstentions. All right. With 6 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the settlement agreement is adopted. All right. So next we will move on to supporting Chuck's LLC stipulated license, and the chair recognizes Commissioner Newland for 5 minutes.
Thank you again, Chair Footer. So Chuck's LLC, located right next door to Sankofa, 2718 Georgia Avenue, again applied for Class C tavern license. Given the establishment's kind of parameters, they don't have the same outdoor space as the previous. So the full hours of the license would apply for this. No kind of adjustments or settlement agreement needed. So we offer up this resolution of support, and again, happy to answer any questions.
I was just, sorry, Chair Footer, can I?
No, please. Yeah.
I think there was just a copy and paste issue from the template that we had, because I see you talk about Bryant Street bike lanes in here. I love that we're supporting him in here too, but.
Yeah. That is my fault. I apologize. I will correct this. It should just be, I believe, that.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. Thank you for that. The one thing that I'll just add, Commissioner Newland, if you don't mind, Chuck's is coming to us as a new applicant for a new license. They did have a liquor license before, and it is no longer out there or issued. And so this is a new license. It is under new ownership. Chuck unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. And if people have been to that space before, it used to be, when Chuck was operating it, it used to be 2 specific, I guess, entrances, spaces. In this iteration, it is just one of those 2. So if you were looking at it and it had that green kind of grassy little fake turf in front, there are 2 doors. The one on the left, the one that's closest to Sankofa Cafe, that is what is still operating. And so the space has been kind of cut in half, and it is just that one little area, or that one space. It does not have a summer garden, so it is all just things inside. They are not asking for an entertainment endorsement, and they are not asking for the full extent of the hours that they could. The hours are, they would close on Sundays at 11 p.m. On Monday through Thursday, they would close at midnight. And then on Friday and Saturday, they would close at 2 a.m. And again, that is all just for internal operations. There is no external. And I say that because, and I will say this more formally, but we determined that we are not going to enter into a settlement agreement with them. So we have no stand on to protest or anything like that. So Commissioner Jacobson, please let the record reflect that we are taking no stance on the petition for Chuck's LLC. But they were asking for a stipulated license while they go through the bureaucratic process. And so that's what this is trying to do right now. Any questions from commissioners? All right, any questions from the public? Any questions or comments with respect to Chuck's LLC and our support for a stipulated license? Please indicate that you'd like to speak by raising your hand. All right, seeing none. I'll now accept a motion to adopt the, I'm so sorry, my script that I wrote here, I did incorrectly. To adopt a resolution in support of Chuck's LLC's stipulated license. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Seconded? That was a question. Is anyone willing to offer the second?
Seconded.
Thank you. All right. The motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the resolution in support of Chuck's LLC stipulated license signify aye by raising your hand. All those opposed signify by raising your hand. And any abstentions? All right. With 6 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted. All right. So I'm going to go back to the agenda. And next on our agenda is update on settlement agreement with Hook Hall, and I will kick it over to Commissioner. Let me stop right there. I'm sorry. So discussion on updating settlement agreement with Kraken Axes, also known as Hook Hall, and the chair recognizes Commissioner Ray for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. So as you indicated, this establishment began under the name of Kraken Axes. It was going to be an axe throwing establishment in 2018, and the community came together and worked with ANC 1A at the time to put in place a settlement agreement that has been in place since they opened. The applicant has now gone to ABRA and asked for amendments to their settlement agreement or for the settlement agreement to be removed. This process began back in November of last year, still again with ANC 1A, and the ANC voted to protest the removal or changes to that settlement agreement, and so began the process of working with the applicant on trying to negotiate something different. The applicant is here tonight, and I'll have her speak here in just a few minutes. But they've come forward with some changes, and we've had meetings which included ABRA staff as well as really a negotiator or mediator to kind of work through the issues. A lot of it having to do with well, I'll let them speak for themselves. I won't say that. So we have an agreement before us, and the idea is we have to, as an ANC, decide, are we willing to accept this agreement or are we going to reject this agreement? I'm sure we'll hear from the applicant. We will probably hear from some neighbors. I can see their names here as well. Just understand.
Did Commissioner Ray pause for anybody else, or is it just me?
He paused for me as well.
Commissioner Ray, if you can hear us, we cannot hear you. Maybe while we're waiting for Commissioner Ray to come back, he did mention that Hook Hall is represented here tonight. If you don't mind raising your hand, we can start to pull you in and unmute you. All right, I see Anna Valero. Commissioner Jacobson, do you have the ability to pull Anna over?
I think you do now that you're host, and Commissioner Ray is also back.
Oh, great.
Apologies. As some of you know, I'm in a hotel room and suddenly the internet just turned off. So hopefully I was okay. So I was saying that I hopefully I caught most of that, but that we either accept the agreement this evening or we would probably move to the full-on protest with the board, provided we can't come up with something else. So I'll let Anna Valero come forward, and she can speak to why she feels the agreement needed to change. And Miss Valero, yeah, there you are. I'm going to promote you for this purpose because I know this is going to be complicated. And then Miss Valero.
Oh no, I think he froze again.
He did indeed. Are you still host, Chair Footer?
I am not. I don't see the ability to move her up.
I'm hitting it. I think she's
Okay.
to accept it.
Okay. Sorry, Commissioner Ray, you paused there for a moment, but now you're back.
Okay, yeah, I'm getting my internet is not stable, which is it's been perfect this entire time, of course.
Yeah. The minute you need to start talking.
Yeah, I'll let Ms. Valero. Ms. Valero, is there anyone else that you needed to have on the call?
And Ms. Valero, you're on mute if you are. Hi. There you go.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Was there anybody else that you wanted to pull up that would be speaking tonight for hook call?
No.
No? Okay,
Not in this
great.
one.
So please, go ahead. If you want to run us through some of the details.
Sure, and I can just, I know Michael broke up there, Commissioner Ray broke up there, just to sort of like create some continuity on the process. The process is one that ABRA has laid out, where the mediation that we went through with ABRA is part of their, that's a general part of their process, where they bring ANC and license holders together in order to talk through it. It was a really great meeting. We just talked through the fact that there have been, where we started in this process in 2018 and where we are now in 2023. We're a very different business than what we originally imagined when we did our initial application and settlement agreement. And, I think that there were a lot of concerns originally around there being an axe throwing venue in the, it was something that was very new at the time. We're clearly not that now. We are a community gathering space. It's something we're very proud of, how the concept has evolved. And it's something that we are very dedicated to being a venue space in DC. The flip side of that is that the current settlement agreement that we have really limits us from a commercial business standpoint. There is a lot of business that we candidly lose simply because of a lot of the restrictions that exist in the settlement agreement that we abide by that aren't the same in any other bar establishment on the Georgia Avenue corridor, or as the ABRA mediator said, don't even apply. She's never seen something like that on any bar in DC as a whole. And so there are things like we can't even play recorded music outside after 9 p.m. So any kind of music has to stop and such. And so this was really to address some of those concerns and really to ensure that we are have commercially reasonable in terms of competition with our neighbors that are along the corridor. And as a venue in DC, that we are able to thrive along with the other and compete along with the other venues that exist in DC. And so there are things around, there was very specific language around not having amplified recorded music and things like that were part of what we had been wordsmithing with Commissioner Ray during going back and forth on revisions. There are a few other pieces that have changed. One of them was there was originally a requirement for parking. That's something that technically ABRA can't regulate anyways, as they said. But one of the changes that we've had to make in response to COVID is now everyone expects, we originally didn't have a kitchen built into our facility because we were having mostly food trucks or caterers. That's something that we are in the process of changing. We're building out a commercial kitchen on the space. And so that is replacing some of the parking that was originally there. And so just changing that parking requirement was part of what was also being removed. But I'm happy to answer any other questions. But again, a lot of this was in order to create parity between our establishment and other like establishments in venues in the city.
Thank you, Ms. Valero. So I'm glad you ended on parity, because that is still the one place where I have some concern. And Chairman, if you could go to the section where it mentions the hours of entertainment. So if I understand, this is the clean copy that we got from your attorneys. Right now, the hours of entertainment on the outside space would end at midnight, and on the indoor space would end at 3 a.m. on the summer garden versus the indoor space. Now, and you know this, but I've reviewed the agreement that we have with Midlands currently, and on theirs, the hours of entertainment outside go to 11 a.m. and until 1 a.m. So this agreement would not actually be in parity, it would be something more than that. Is that something that you are hard and fast on tonight, or is there some flexibility in the hours of entertainment?
I think there's some flexibility. The interior hours where I need parity is with other venues in DC, because as we think about being a venue space on the inside, part of where we struggle when, we're talking with event planners is if they want to have, if they want to have a mitzvah or they want to have a social event or they have a wedding, they want to be able to have music being played beyond 1 a.m. And so that's where those are the portions where I am struggling from, like, very openly, where I struggle in the competitive landscape of venues. The live entertainment in the summer garden, definitely something that we can have a conversation about. I think that's something that if you're like 11 o'clock, totally understand. Again, I'm not looking to do something different, something drastically different outside than what we are now. I think, as we all know, that just shutting the music off at 9 is, it's just really detrimental to us.
Okay, thank you. I would, I know there are neighbors here, so they've heard what we had to say. I would, turning back to the chair to say, I would open it up to the community and let's hear from them.
Yes, can I just clarify? So because of the timing of the hearings and stuff, we would love to get to an opportunity to sign a settlement agreement before then. Commissioner Ray, what are we looking to do here? Or is this something that you feel like we should discuss? Maybe we should discuss it later and let's hear what the community has to say, and then we can discuss these actual pieces.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am too. I think it would be good to get everybody on the table, and then we can kind of discuss. And even if we can, I would say we have basically 3 weeks between now and the hearing. Even if we cannot necessarily come to a conclusion tonight, the ANC would have an opportunity, with your indulgence, to hold a special meeting where we would focus just on this and get it, finish it if we needed to. So there's thankfully a little bit. I mean, I'll just turn back to Ms. Valero with a question on that. Is there any reason that we would not be able to use, let's say, the next week if we had to? I'm just putting it out there.
I think that's really reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, no, completely. I sit in the same position. I would like us to be able to, get to an agreement and have a settlement agreement that we're all comfortable moving forward with.
Okay, because and I would point out, and again, I only got the final here, and well, the the edit that is the problem is it still mentions 1A. So we would need to fix a couple of small things, but I don't think that's pertinent to the discussion tonight.
All right. So with that, let's turn it over to questions and comments from the public. If you are interested in speaking, please raise your hand. I see that we already have somebody, Keith Haig. Hi, Keith. You should have been moved over, and if you unmute yourself, you have the floor for.
Okay, I'm not sure if there's another neighbor on that's before me.
You were the first.
Oh, okay, well, because I didn't realize I raised my hand already. But but I will say something. Yeah, and just maybe other neighbors can say more than I, because where my house is in relation to the venue, it's farther up Morton Street, so I'm less impacted by the venue. With that said, I do want to note first that as the operator just mentioned, the venue has had some good kind of events where they're on a Sunday and like this. I think they had a Christmas festival a few times in the past few Christmas seasons, and it's really nice. You know, you got different vendors in there. It's like an indoor farmers market. Those kinds of things are really nice. And there are other things they have there that are good for the community. Nonetheless, the issues with this venue are really serious, in my opinion, and they certainly don't warrant rolling back this agreement. There's a reason why this agreement provides for a 9 o'clock shut off of loud music, and that is because it's in the middle of a neighborhood. I mean, come on. So in just where I am in relation to that venue, I can't hear the stuff in my house because I'm far enough away. But if I take my dog outside for her last walk, I can hear it louder and louder and louder as you go down Morton Street. And I say to myself, I feel so bad for the people that live down at this end of the street, because how can they live there? It's like having a party in your house. So please, I mean, it takes a lot of audacity to come to this meeting and say, well, geez, I need to be on parity with other businesses. Come on, you're in a residential area. This is a custom agreement for you where your operation is. So that's my view of this. I think that you should instead negotiate this to roll back the leniency that's in here, so they, it's more strict, because from what I understand, they don't even follow what this says. So with that, I'll pass it along to another neighbor. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you, Keith. I do see that we have Elizabeth Oliver. And Miss Oliver, go right ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm Mr. Oliver. I'm Elizabeth's husband. She's logged on through it, but she's here with me too. Thanks for giving me a minute. My wife and I sent an email to Commissioner Ray yesterday related to this and the updated view. And for reference, my wife and I were directly involved, along with our neighbor, Mr. Hegg, was just on, with coming up the original agreement that I think was negotiated in pretty good faith, and frankly a healthy dose of optimism that was met with disappointment. So I'd like to just read the email I sent Commissioner Ray. The list of elements in the original settlement agreement that Hook Hall disregarded significantly exceeds the list of substantive elements they adhered to. Moreover, in the years since the agreement, they proceeded with significant work on the site and changing their business without permits, further demonstrating their disregard for operating within any rules, such as a settlement agreement when enforcement appears lacking. Based on the extensive evidence to date, I remain convinced that any interim good behavior, a couple of the events that Keith was mentioning, that Hook Hall has exhibited is a mirage and Hook Hall intends to engage in bad faith negotiations of a settlement agreement, culminating in their disregard of any settled provisions that don't suit their business goals. Please keep the neighbors apprised of any procedural and related steps we need to take to ensure we've exhausted all options available to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. Did Mrs. Oliver want to speak as well? I think he already moved over.
Sorry, if Elizabeth Oliver wanted to say anything, she could do that now.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that when I read the revised PDF that Michael had sent to us earlier today, I was really concerned because it seems like the revisions that Hook Hall is requesting are changing our settlement agreement to accommodate their new operation. And when we made the settlement agreement with them, it was under, their previous business operation, where the Summer Garden seemed to serve a much different purpose than it does now, and it will moving forward as this enormous event rental space. And the impact that their past larger events and any future events have had on our parking and noise are just going to be exacerbated by all of the recent modifications they've made to their property since then, like building the outdoor kitchen and bathroom where there should have been parking for their staff to alleviate the burden of the parking on the neighborhood. So that's all I wanted to say, just that a lot of the revisions that they made to the settlement agreement are really concerning and are just going to aggravate the problems we already have and have had a lot of difficulty navigating with the owners.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Any other members of the community that would like to speak? I do see we have a couple of people. If you are calling in and you're not online, you may raise your hand by dialing *9. All right, I see we have Kay Pearson.
Yes, I don't live near that venue, but I did live within a quarter mile of Georgia Avenue for over 30 years. And I really value the development of small business on the corridor and the nightlife. I recognize that when I moved in that area with my, I had 3 small children, that there would be noise, that there would be activity at night. And I think when you move into the city and you move into a corridor that is filled with activity and bars and nightlife, that a reasonable amount of activity is permitted, and that if you need quiet, then moving on a commercial or close to a commercial corridor may not be the right thing to do. I think I don't know, honestly, don't know the history of the settlement agreements with Hook Hall, but I think that they made a reasonable argument for being competitive with all the other activity on the avenue. So I just, not necessarily speaking for or against, but I just think that the community needs to be fair-minded about this, and as long as this is not actually disrupting your life, that this should be given reasonable consideration. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson. All right, I see that Keith Haig, your hand is up again.
would just note that this Hook Hall was not there when the people that have spoken moved into their houses. It was when I moved there in 2014, and for many years after that, in this house, that place was there was nothing there. As far as I remember, there was for years. There's nothing there. So I don't think anyone with any sense would ever expect that there would be a music hall across from where they live. I mean, think about that. That how can you rest? How can you sleep? How can it just makes zero sense. I'm sorry, but it never made sense to me when this proposal was made in 2018. I said what I said. Nonetheless, there's disagreement. It makes no sense to me now. You don't have a music hall across the street, like what, 20, 30 feet, whatever it is, from people's homes. It doesn't make any sense. So I think the property should be rezoned to something else or some other solution. This doesn't make any sense. It just makes no sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan. I see that we have Patrick Nelson. Hi, Patrick.
Hey, just to give a little bit of history on here, that building was originally for many, many, many years a Murray's Steakhouse, the store, grocery store. And then it was vacant for a while and this Axe place came in. And I remember when they were opening, there was a whole lot of contention. And I sat in on meetings at the ANC about what was going on and the idea of having axes being thrown up against walls and right next to a house and all that stuff. And I'm not against the business itself because I agree with one gentleman who said they do have or have had in the past events where they did Christmas bazaar kind of things, which I actually participated in and went to. But I will say from my experience, I was just in Cook Hall last weekend or last Saturday to meet with a friend to drop something off. And there was a battle of the bands going on there. And it was so loud inside that before I even got into it, that's how I knew I was at the right place because I could hear it from the street. And when I walked inside, I couldn't even talk to my friend. I'd use sign language to talk to him because the music was so loud and he wanted me to stay. And I told him, no, I'm sorry, but I'm an old geezer and I'm not going to sit here and get my ears blown out with this loud music. So I left. So I can just imagine what it's like living next door to that on a daily basis.
Thank you, Patrick. Any other members of the community? All right. I do have a couple of questions, Commissioner Ray, if you don't mind, unless you.
No, please. No, absolutely. Please do.
Okay. So just kind of talking or hearing some of those concerns, Ms. Valero, can you walk through some of the sound mitigation efforts that you guys have done and how you've incorporated feedback from the community in order to address some of those concerns?
Yeah, I'm happy to, Commissioner. To be clear, when this settlement agreement was originally negotiated, it was an empty parking lot and candidly an open air drug market. And so what we have done since then in order to change the landscape of that corner has been in the intention of how do we help in terms of bettering that corner in the community and how can we have a positive impact. Some of the things that we have done since then is we have the highest commercially allowable fence in DC. You can only go up to 8 feet. We've put in an 8-foot cedar fence around the outside garden in order to absorb the sound. The speakers outside are also strategically placed in order to ensure that sound is not going out. We have audio technicians will tell you more smaller speakers are what help to keep sound in and not out. We also are talking a very old building that has very thick walls. And so part of what we also do is when there is music inside, we close the doors. Close the windows, the roll-up windows. We've also installed some acoustic panels in some of the ceiling that will help to absorb, that are designed to absorb sound. But a lot of it is strategic audio design in order to allow for sound to not travel as much.
And anything with respect to bass or subwoofers, things of that nature?
Yeah, what we do is whenever we have large performances, our management team is trained to go around and they do decibel checks on the street. And so every 30 minutes they go and they do a walk along the outside perimeter of the building in order to do decibel checks. This is something that we do not just in terms of being good neighbors, it's also a regulation that we have to abide by in order to uphold our license. And so we do that also because if an ABRA inspector shows up or a DCRA inspector shows up, we also show that to them because they're going to do the exact same thing.
Commissioners, any questions?
A question and a comment, and I'll start with my question. Is there any clause in here for, so I've seen some other settlement agreements where they give some members of the community a particular number of who's ever in charge that night so that if there are issues, they have someone they can escalate to quickly. Is there a clause in here for that?
Yes, that's actually one of the clauses that we added in that wasn't in the original agreement. Honestly, it's something that we've done anyways. You know, everyone on the street has my cell phone number. And so, you know, when the folks who are directly across the street, if they ever have a concern about noise, they call me and they send me a text message and, you know, we tell the DJ to turn it down and I say, guys, is it good? How are you feeling? You know, and so we've always kept open lines of communication, but we are just formalizing that with a clause in there.
I believe it's 12, maybe it may not be 12 anymore when you remove the.
And we're 11 now.
Yeah. This is a clean copy. I'm used to looking at the messy one.
Messy one. We're always in the messy. And so you know, that's something that we're super comfortable doing. You know, we have protocols around that. Like I said, it's just really formalizing something that we've already been doing.
And then just to comment, and apologies if you can hear my cat meowing, she's getting hungry. I don't know the full history of the parking clause. Honestly, I'm glad it's not in there anymore. I am very uncomfortable when we advocate for parking near bars for the bar usage because people are going to these locations to get drunk. And it's usually not safe for them to then drive home. And this business is, I think, within like a 10-minute walk of the Georgia Petworth Ave metro station. And it's along the Georgia Ave bus lines, which have pretty high usage in the city. So I think generally speaking, it is pretty accessible outside of folks that don't have cars.
It's also what we promote on our website. And it's what we promote anytime, you know, folks write in and they're like, you know, what's the parking situation? We're like, realistically, you know, we're so accessible on public transit or use rideshare. And so that's what we always promote.
Right. Commissioners, any other questions? And Mr. or Mrs. Oliver, I saw that you put your hand up. You're more than welcome to ask your question if you want.
Hey, I just wanted to clarify, but my understanding was that the parking spaces were in the back in the gated area and were intended for use by the staff, not necessarily for patrons. Can you let me know if that's incorrect?
For clarity's sake, Ms. Oliver, they were also originally intended really for delivery purposes in order to bring deliveries into the back. There's a loading dock, a loading section right back there. One of the things that I don't think was ever formalized, but was something that concerns when we first opened about deliveries coming to Morton Street. What we just did was we changed our policies and procedures so that all deliveries have to, and any delivery trucks have to stay on Georgia Avenue and can't come down Morton Street, so as to not congest Morton Street. That's also a very tight turn onto a narrow street. And so vehicles getting in and out of there, especially anything larger than a sedan, was just causing issues in the neighborhood. So we just changed our policies and procedures, and all of our deliveries come in off of Georgia Ave. Anyone that's delivering onto Morton Street, they have to hand truck down into the back loading gate. And so that was what the original intention was for the parking there. We also, from a staffing standpoint, our crew, we promote commuter benefits. And so we provide commuter benefits to our crew to also promote them using public transit as opposed to them parking in the neighborhood.
Don't you have to do that legally anyway?
We were doing it before it was legally required. I think that's something that is just if you are.
I'll clarify. I think actually it's if you provide parking, you have to do an equal or opposite benefit if not parking. So it's a little different.
Yeah, honestly, it was something that we were doing that we have done for all of our businesses, because I think it's just a reasonable thing to do for folks who, if you own a business in an urban center, people should have the ability and should have funds that they can access pre-tax for transit.
If it's okay, Mr. Chair, I'd kind of like to jump back in a little.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Mrs. Oliver.
Yes.
Commissioner Ray.
All right. Well, I appreciate that you're willing to think of, look at that the outdoor space. I mean, that would bring that back into, if we go to 11 o'clock, that would bring that into parity, which was one of my concerns. I am a little nervous, and I'll be frank. I'm nervous about the 3 a.m. only because I think that it opens the door to late night dance events. And those are that is the one kind of event that we have gotten complaints in the past, where people were able to hear the music, that was going on inside, even with the doors closed. They were able to hear the music in their own homes. And I have, letters from a couple of people. It has not happened many times, but it has certainly happened. Is there, how could we address that concern?
Ms. Valera, if you,
Yeah, no, sorry. Michael, you broke, sorry, Commissioner Ray, you broke up.
Yeah, no, I'll try. I'm sorry. I'll try again.
No worries.
So we remain, so the 3 a.m. for indoor remains a concern for me, because I'm worried that it encourages renting out the space to someone that is interested in having a late night dance event. And that kind of dance event was the one other indoor issue that we have had on occasion. Is there anything we could do to mitigate that concern around, basically a circuit party / pride event / something in that vein?
Completely. And I thought about this because I know that this is something that we had talked about previously during mediation. And then I was trying to think about how you define a circuit party. And I tried to get into that. And I wasn't quite sure that was something any of us wanted to figure out how to tackle. And so, I think part of it is also just, I hear the concern. I think it's also something that, because we have the point of contact, because we have open communication, and because we're legally required to meet noise regulations anyways, I hear your concern, and I think that there is already regulation in place that we're held to abide by in order to manage noise levels. And so, and if someone feels like it's, again, and ABRA inspectors, they come out and that's literally what they do. They pull out a decibel reader and they walk around the building and they check it. It's also one of the reasons why we have a double door on the front, in order to make sure that less noise escapes when doors are closed at night. And so my hope is that there's enough DC regulation in place that already we have to follow, and that with open communication, it's something that we can mitigate.
Can I add on to that, Commissioner Ray? Let's play out maybe an abbreviated situation like that. There's a dance party that's going on inside, and the operating hours of the outdoor space is till 3 a.m. People are coming in and out, in and out, in and out through the doors. You are absolutely right that there's going to be some music and stuff that's emitted just from the door opening. But do you have people that are at the security guards at the door to make sure the doors are closed at all times? How do you try? You're right that yes, I mean, people will come and they'll actually put the noise thing and they'll actually read it. But let's be honest, there's still that's going to be a hard thing to register, but it doesn't mean that it's not disruptive, right? And while the code may say one thing, unless you're comfortable with getting many, many, many complaints on a regular basis, how do you try to creatively address some of those things? Because that is a real situation that could probably happen. I've been to your space before and go outside. It's hot in there. You want to go outside for a few minutes and sound emits, all that kind of stuff. Like, what do you do in order to try and mitigate some of that?
Some of what you've already talked about. I mean, anytime that we have a larger format event, we have a very high ratio of security managing access control, and that's around the entire building, including any of the doors that must remain closed during service. And so that you really only have 2 points of egress out into that garden. It's a large roll-up door and then a person door. It's like a one-person panic bar door out into that garden. That large roll-up door stays closed during any events, and then the security is stationed right there, typically both on the inside and the outside of that access control door, just to manage making sure, especially in instances where the inside is a private event and the outside is a public event, or open to the general public, in order to manage that access control piece. Same for the front. And then again, a lot of that is strategic placement of speakers. Any larger event like that, you're not talking about like a DJ with 2 stick speakers. You typically have someone who is, has a more professional setup. And what we always talk to them about during their sound checks is just regulation. And so how do we set, and what they usually do is they take a piece of tape and they put a Sharpie mark on where we agree that base is going to be and can't go above it. So a lot of that is just done in, if you're running a smooth operation and a good production, you handle a lot of those pieces whenever you're doing your initial sound checks, your initial setup with both the organizers and directly with the sound techs who are working on the stage.
Thank you. Commissioner Ray?
I would say let's caucus. I mean, what I mean by that is I'll let Ms. Valera, go back down into the audience, and then I would like to hear maybe from the other commissioners where they are right now. I have some thoughts, but I wouldn't mind hearing others. And then that's, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman. I know this is getting long.
Yes. So you're saying hear from the community again, or are you asking to table?
I think we should pull this into the to the commissioners, and we can deliberate on how we, where we all are. I'd like to hear maybe a little bit from each person as to what either they would like to see happen, or before I necessarily share where I think we might be able to go. But let's pull this together. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Valera, I'm gonna for the lack of a better word, demote you into the attendee role again, so we can have this discussion ourselves. Thank you for coming tonight. All right. So, does anyone have anything they'd like to help me out with on this?
I'm happy to kind of start if that's helpful. Without having read through the whole thing, yeah, I think that the live entertainment piece of for the summer garden, the exterior, 11 o'clock. If my kind of thought goes to that huge jump going from 9 o'clock right now to midnight or later is going to be quite a different operation that would be kind of disruptive / would be impactful. To the continuity thing, I think is really important, particularly as we are trying to thread the needle of a residential corridor that's starting to experience a little bit more commercial real estate. And so continuity in some of those behaviors, I'm not quite sure how similar the two are, the two being anything within the close proximity with respect to like live music. I think they might be quite unique in that, but the 12 midnight moving it to 11 sounds great. The 3 a.m. one on the interior, I would need to continue to think about that one myself.
Yeah, thank you. Are there other commissioners with thoughts or questions?
So this isn't, I mean, the musical aspect isn't really that unique though for a quote unquote residential area, right? The 930 Club is right outside of your door, right, Chair Footer? And you live in a residential area in some ways because there are a lot of people that live right in that area. I guess since Midlands is right across the street, how late do they have a live entertainment ability too? And how late is that open if they do?
Their indoor live entertainment is 1 a.m. That's
okay.
Kept going back to.
Okay.
I will say to that, Commissioner Jacobson, one, you're right. I do live literally right there is 930 Club. One, they don't have an outdoor space. And two, they were here long before any of us. And this is a major building that has sound mitigation, knowing that had been here first, versus townhouses, small residential, single family homes that may have been built in the early 1900s, mid 1900s, and now a huge concert hall type venue is rattling their walls. But hear what you're saying though. Commissioner Brown?
Yeah, I struggle with this a bit because I was in 1E with Commissioner Ray when residents were complaining about noise coming from Hook Hall, particularly regarding the outside. They were cracking axes before and heard noise there. But we keep calling it residential corridor, but it's a commercial corridor. It's Georgia Avenue. And there's, the residents are impacted by noise. So I think we have to kind of frame it in that way and look at it as a space that has been on Georgia Avenue for a while. It was a market originally, and we had a property owner that had vacant properties all along Georgia Avenue and throughout this particular area in Lower Georgia Avenue. And we had a really hard time filling up the space with business owners that, could be able to have a particular kind of use that was really unique. It's not a space that, that was easy to fill by a lot of businesses. So I want to be able to support the business, but also see them respect residents and their needs. So if there's any way to do, just something that really focuses on the summer garden, because I think that is like the kind of primary issue in hearing from the residents. When I look at this, I see the hours as being okay. But if there's some area where there could be a little bit more discussion with the residents and where everybody could kind of land on some even terms. But from my perspective, I would like to see us supporting this business and keeping it thriving, because it is an event hall. there are other businesses that, that come in and use it as an event space or contract with them as an event space. And you want to see Hook Hall really work with them to make sure that folks are in agreement with what's, with what is in this agreement. And hopefully we can talk about what contracts look like and what language could be included in there that addresses these particular issues that we're raising, but particularly within the language of the settlement agreement. That's what I'm hoping to have from this conversation with Hook Hall, but I would hate to kind of lose them. I would hate for this space to be unused. I really do want to frame this as a business that is on a commercially zoned area, and we're having some challenges right now with noise.
I'm sorry to jump in, but Chairman, I did want to address the Commissioner mentioned the outdoor space. In the agreement, we did add a clause, and I think it's down in shoot, now I'm forgetting. There's a clause in here about not using the outdoor space for dance events, which was again, so that particular type of entertainment would not be allowed.
Which is in alignment with the rest of the businesses.
Yeah.
Along George Avenue.
Again, this is going to go to a point I'm going to make later, but I'm not sure if I'm seeing it here. And it might be that it ended up in
right here.
There we go. Thank you. No facilities for dancing in the summer garden. So it did make it into this one.
Commissioner Jacobson?
Yeah, I was just going to add that I think my understanding of the primary concern right now is being open until 3 a.m. and potential sound leakage from that. Is that everyone else's understanding?
I think it's just the live music aspect of it. I don't think we're talking about they're selling alcohol or operating till then. It's just the live entertainment. Is that right, Commissioner Ray?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where I am too. I think that's where, yeah, I think right now, at least in my head, I'm just trying to get around that one item.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to convey that either. I was talking about entertainment in the summer garden.
And I appreciate everyone's comments. It's very helpful. It's very helpful. Anyway,
may I ask as a point of clarification, when we're talking about live entertainment, Ms. Valero is talking about people who want to have a wedding, that kind of thing. When we say live entertainment, and pardon my ignorance on this, is that like a band or is that a DJ?
It can be, yeah, it's both. So really almost anything where a person might use a microphone or is controlling what the entertainment is live entertainment. What it is not is if you're playing background music, pre-recorded background music is not live entertainment. A television being on is not live entertainment, even if it's a sports, which quite frankly, I think might be a little bit more of a live entertainment, but even if you're watching a sports venue, that is not live entertainment.
Chair Footer, can I ask a clarifying question?
Please.
So let's say I decide to have a wedding party at this venue, just trying to understand the parameters of live entertainment, and I come with a preloaded Spotify playlist and I say, plug this phone in and play this playlist. Does that not count as live entertainment? Okay.
No.
Commissioner Gallagher, oh, sorry, good.
Oh, no, this is where I am, just so you all know. There are a few little things in here that need to be tweaked and just kind of cleaned up. I mean, if it sounds like we're willing, that the applicant is willing to change it to 11 a.m. on the outside. So I'm going to ask: is having a special meeting where we will not take more testimony? Well, obviously, I don't think that's going to be necessary. But would having a special meeting where we get a final version make people feel more comfortable? It would make me feel more comfortable that we give this a couple more days to let it kind of sit with us. But that means you all finding a day where we can get back together. And I understand that's a hardship, but just kind of putting that out there.
The more time I get to spend with you guys, the better, I always say. That works for me. I guess a question. In addition to us kind of engaging the public, is there anything more that we would do to kind of promote?
Yeah. I mean, clearly I would get a new version out, let people, comment or make suggestions, work with Ms. Valero, see if there's anything else that could be done to make people feel more comfortable within reason. But, I think she's had an opportunity now to hear this. The community's had an opportunity to say its piece. There could be other, and I'm not going to shortchange what the changes might be, but that the purpose of this is simply to clean things up and get a version in front of us that we can then do an up and down vote on. And that hopefully would happen certainly within the next 7 days.
A special meeting would have to be noticed for 7 days prior.
Well, there is a clause, I believe, for emergencies, as long as our notice that goes out to the community, states why we're having the meeting a little earlier. We can do that, and I think we can use the justification that this is a pending case that is going to go before the board, and we have to get, we have to be settled on where we are long enough in advance to get all the documentation put together. So I think that would justify the shorter notice period.
And when is the ABRA hearing? The
ABRA hearing would be on March the 15th. However, all of the paperwork needs to be filed with them by March 8th. So that's why I'm saying I think a shorter notice period would be fine.
I'm just looking at the calendar real quick. I do want to just ask Commissioner Gallagher, Commissioner Newland. I don't want to put you guys on the spot. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to, but I do want to just ask if there's anything that you guys wanted to say, or if you had any thoughts.
Sure. I think, as usual, Commissioner Brown is a voice of reason in the neighborhood, and I think I just want to second some of the comments she made. I'm hopeful that we can find a solution that both keeps Hook Hall active in the community and satisfies as many of the neighbors as possible. I mean, I'm old enough to remember, I've lived in the neighborhood long enough to remember Murray's grocery store that was previously on site. That grocery store sold USDA grade B meat. I've been a vegetarian for 25 years, but that would be enough to turn me vegetarian anyway. So I think Hook Hall is actually the best neighbor that we've had in the space in quite some time. I also love having the pedestrian traffic, just people on the street at night when I'm walking home on Georgia Avenue, as opposed to the zombie apocalypse that was predominant in 2012 when I first moved to the neighborhood. So I am hopeful that we can keep Hook Hall active and open while also being cognizant of as many neighbors' concerns as possible. Thanks.
You're here. And Commissioner Brown, great points. Commissioner Newland, anything?
No, just briefly, I don't think I can top Commissioner Gallagher, but I agree in that I support Commissioner Brown's perspective on this issue.
Okay. So Commissioner Ray, if I can be of any assistance here. So I believe that we would table this decision until the applicant and the commission have an opportunity to negotiate final terms for the settlement agreement, and that we will call a special meeting within the appropriate time in the next 2 weeks in order to meet the March 8th deadline from ABRA. Did I summarize that?
Yes. And if that was a motion, I so move it.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. So the motion, I will try to say it again. The motion before the commission is to table decision on the settlement agreement and for the commission to get back together within the next 2 weeks so that we can make a final decision. We will have a special committee, a special meeting in order to exclusively talk about this one issue. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right. With 6 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed. The motion passes, and we will move forward. All right, I'm going to go back to the agenda. For the sake of time, I'm going to forego I'll just say it very quickly. Essentially, for updates, the mayor had a public safety meeting on January 21st, and I wanted to just take a moment to commend the mayor's office in having this open forum for people to come and speak about their concerns around public safety. I also think that it is important that this city is very honest and transparent about what the situation is. And I just want to commend, I think it is great that the mayor wasn't mincing words. She wasn't trying to sugarcoat anything. She provided facts as they are. She was very, very concerned with how the public is perceiving public safety in the city, and that is equally as important as what the stats are actually saying. And I think that that is important for us to recognize, and I'm appreciative of her kind of taking that stance. With that, she shared a lot of information. I do have copies of that, and Commissioner Jacobson, with your help, I would love to get it posted on the website. The two things in particular is the presentation that she provided has a lot of statistics in there. I highly recommend people go and take a look at it. The second thing is that the MOKers have a ward-specific resource guide. It's 2 pages, but it really is just chocked full of really good stuff, particularly focused towards public safety. I highly recommend people print a copy of it out, take a look at it, refer to it. We will have it on our website. People can come back to it early and often. And so with that, if there are any specific questions, Commissioner Jacobson was also there. So if you want to mention, or if there's anything you want to say with respect to the mayor's meeting.
No, I'll echo a lot of what you said. It was interesting to see that generally crime is down overall and has been decreasing, which doesn't necessarily match up with the perceptions that we're hearing from folks.
Any questions? All right. So next on the agenda is the approval of the ANC 1E's fiscal year 2023 proposed budget, and the chair recognizes Commissioner Ray.
Thank you again. I'll try to keep it short. I know that's been a long meeting, mostly thanks to me. However, I will give a little bit of an update. You know, we have a bank account. It is established with PNC Bank. It currently has roughly $170 in there because we have purchased checks, and we have also written a check to the security fund, which was received today by the auditor's office. So in terms of our accounts, we are ready to roll. It is just now a matter of the CFO's office going ahead and setting up the direct deposit link into our account, and then the office of the ANC can release the first 2 quarters. Mr. Chair, I think you were going to share. Were you going to share the budget, or?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. And because that'll prompt me to what the first 2 quarters actually we get. I don't have that number off the top of my head. I'll say we introduced this budget at the first meeting, which was recommended by the Office of the ANC. So we put that number out. I received no comment from the community or any other commissioners on needing to make any other changes. I will point out that I did move $50 from line item number 7 to line item number 9 because the security fund is $50, and I understand that that is the line where they wanted that to show. So we will receive. We have a total budget there of $13,848.78 for this fiscal year. We will receive those first 2 quarterly payments one of $4,819.80, and then a second one of $4,514.49 upon the CFO's office completing the connection. So we should get that, you know, any moment. I keep thinking about this. We do have some bills to pay. And then we would receive, you know, Q3 after Q3 and Q4 subsequently later on in the year. So we just have to monitor cash flow. But as I said, this was the budget. There are no changes. You know, we're not planning on hiring any personnel. We're not planning on having any direct office costs. So everything is really focused in on, you know, communications and basic supplies, the Zoom account, our website.
No.
And I think lost Commissioner Ray.
Well, with that, are there, Commissioner Ray, you're back.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I'll just say, you know, we were hoping to buy some equipment so we can do virtual meetings in the future. With that, if there are any questions, happy to take them.
Just clarification on the purchase of service. Was that just for the branding? Or are there other things that were going to fall into that category?
It is primarily the branding.
Okay,
because it won't be the full. It will not take the full.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because I think right now we're just spending $1,000 out of that, not the full 2,200.
I see Mr. Gallagher's hand up if he wants to go ahead.
I'm sorry, I can't see it.
Yeah.
Yes, Commissioner Gallagher.
Commissioner Ray, wanted to ask, line 8, the bank charges, is the $500 is the minimum account balance, right? That's not like a service charge to the bank?
No. It's so $500 is what we budgeted for any potential bank charges. I can tell you that we've incurred, we have incurred $75 to have the checkbook printed, and so we have that in hand now. And then it's a $10 a month bank charge. So that's 120 plus the 75. So we're not going to get anywhere near 500, but I just wanted to make sure we had enough flexibility in there in case we did.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Great. Any other questions? All right. Hearing none, I will now accept a motion to approve the FY23 budget.
So moved.
All right.
Seconded.
Great. All right. The motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the ANC 1E FY23 budget, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, signify by raising your hand. And abstentions. With 6 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the budget is adopted. All right, I'm going to go back to the agenda. That concludes our official business for today's meeting. Having no other business before the commission, I'll now accept a motion to adjourn.
So motioned.
All right. And second?
Yeah.
I'll go with Mr. Gallagher, or Commissioner Gallagher. All right. The motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjourning signify by raising your hand. All right. All those opposed? And any abstentions? All right. With 6 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and we are adjourned. For the record, please note that the next general meeting of the ANC 1E will be on Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023, and it will be held virtually. Announcements and other information about ANC 1E will be available at anc1e.org, which is now live. Highly encourage people to go visit. Please feel free to contact any commissioners with any questions. And with that, thank you all for a great meeting and have a great night.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, thank you.